Hello and welcome to another video with dee'stuition. This video for today is 5 key quotes for Friar Lawrence from the Romeo and Juliet series. Now, Friar Lawrence is a very important character, often overlooked, and students do sometimes tend to struggle with what they can say about him. So this video is here to sort out that problem and ensure that you have lots to say about Friar Lawrence. Let's get into it. So the first quotation is from Act 2, Scene 3, and this is where we first meet Friar Lawrence and he's having a conversation with Romeo. Romeo is, of course, um, going to Friar Lawrence to talk to him about his love for Juliet. And Friar Lawrence is, of course, very shocked because the last time he had spoken to Romeo, Romeo was madly in love with Rosaline. And the quote reads, "Young men's love then lies not truly in their hearts, but in their eyes." And there's the use of iambic pentameter in that second line, and that really is Shakespeare serving to express how wise Friar Lawrence is and how he realizes just how fickle love can be when you are young and immature and not really capable of understanding the emotion fully. You've also got the use of juxtaposition between real love and lust. Now, of course, it can be argued here that Romeo does experience real love with Juliet and that it was only lust with Rosaline. You can also look at it in the way that perhaps Romeo has a complete misunderstanding of the difference between real love and lust, and that what he experiences with both Rosaline and Juliet is simply lust, which is why he's so focused on beauty. And I think Friar Lawrence really tries to kind of make that point come home and hit home to Romeo there that there's a big difference between love and lust. Then you've also got the rhyming of lies and eyes, and that is there again to kind of serve as a point of reference to Romeo that we can't always trust ourselves, we can't always trust what we see, and sometimes we can't even trust what we feel, and we have to not just kind of make decisions using our hearts, but also use our brains. And it seems that Friar Lawrence is really trying to explain that to Romeo. The second quotation is also from Act 2, Scene 3, and it's further on in the conversation between Romeo and Friar Lawrence. At this point, Friar Lawrence has agreed to marry Romeo and Juliet, and the quote reads, "In one respect I'll thy assistant be, for this alliance may so happy prove to turn your household rancour to pure love." And what we see here is Friar Lawrence's true intentions. And although he goes about things in a quite unorthodox way, and some might even say a way that is not representative of somebody who is religious or somebody who's supposed to be acting like the mature adult in the situation, we can see here that his intentions are pure and that his intentions are to bring these two families together. He uses that verb assistant to highlight to Romeo that he's going to help him and that he's going to do everything in his power to ensure that this marriage is fruitful and that this marriage benefits not just Romeo and Juliet, but also the wider families. And that's also why he brings in that noun alliance. And what he really wants to do here is bring the families together and form an alliance with them. Friar Lawrence is impartial. He cares about both families, and more importantly, he also cares about the citizens of Verona, and he knows that if these two families can just sort of hash out their differences and find some common ground, that it would benefit everybody. And then he says in that final part of the quotation, to turn your household rancour to pure love. And that links back to the theme of love. And it seems like Friar Lawrence is the only one sort of at this point in the play that is really expressing genuine love. He has a genuine love for Romeo and he has a genuine love for the families, and everything he's doing is with a pure heart. And we haven't really seen that at this point in the play. So the third quotation comes from Act 2, Scene 6, and this is the scene which again is often overlooked, and it's the scene where Romeo and Juliet actually do get married, and of course Friar Lawrence is the one to carry out and officiate that marriage, and the only other person that is there at that time is the nurse. And the quote reads, "Therefore love moderately, Long love doth so, too swift arise, as tardy as too slow. Now, he uses that soft command, love moderately. And what he's really trying to say to Romeo and Juliet here is take your time with love. You don't need to overdo it with love. Kind of just do things slowly but surely, and good things will happen as a result of that. And then he also goes on to say, in the too swift arrives as tardy as too slow. There's the use of personification there, where it talks about, if you rush love, then it can actually end up being slower than faster. And there is a sense of foreshadowing there because, of course, Romeo and Juliet rush everything that they do, and everything that they do seems to have the opposite effect of what they initially wanted. And you've got this foreshadowing of love actually becoming slower, and their love does, of course, slow down and eventually results in their death. It doesn't end up having that kind of fruitful future that they anticipated that it would have when they initially fell in love on the balcony scene, and of course in this scene initially got married. The fourth quotation is from Act 4, Scene 1, and this quotation here is taken from the conversation between Friar Lawrence and Juliet, and it reads, "Stiff and stark and cold appear like death, and in this borrowed liveliness of shrunk death thou shalt continue 42 hours." So Friar Lawrence here is again trying to help the young lovers, and he has devised a plan where Juliet can, of course, appear dead for 42 hours, which is long enough for him to get the message to Romeo that he needs to come back, get Juliet, and of course they can sort of ride off into the sunset and live happily ever after. Now, we of course know from the prologue of the play that that was never destined to happen anyway. And Friar Lawrence uses some asyndetic listing, stiff and stark, colds. And that creates imagery there where he's basically trying to almost sell this idea that he has to Juliet, that she can genuinely appear dead. And this is, of course, a very dangerous plan because Juliet doesn't know whether she'll actually wake up from this slumber that appears like death. And she puts all of her trust in Friar Lawrence. And of course, it's dangerous for Friar Lawrence because if he was caught kind of devising these plans for the young lovers, he would be in extreme trouble because he is essentially marrying two people that shouldn't be married, and then he is essentially ensuring that this relationship can continue, but hasn't been accepted by her father. And we know, of course, that in Elizabethan customs and cultures, fathers made decisions on who daughters would marry. And this quotation links back to the theme of fate, because where he talks about her, of course, appearing like she's dead, as a result of this plan, it actually sort of starts the wheels to her actual death. And though she was supposed to appear like she was dead, she, of course, ends up being dead, as does Romeo. So it links really well with the theme of fate. And the final quotation is from Act 5, Scene 3. Now, this is the final act, of course, and this quotation is taken from just after Friar Lawrence has explained all that he has had to do with the young lovers and how things have ended up the way that they have with these two young children dead in a tomb. And the quotation reads, "And if aught in this miscarried by my fault, let my old life be sacrificed some hour before his time unto the rigour of severest law." And we can tell by the tone of this quotation that Friar Lawrence has a lot of regrets and perhaps wishes that he had behaved differently. The tone is really melancholy, and you can see that he does really kind of hold that guilt, which, in all fairness, he should hold because a lot of this has become his fault. He's taken accountability, which is very much unlike a lot of the older generation in the play. He uses the verb sacrificed, and that links with Romeo and Juliet, because Romeo and Juliet do become sacrificial beings of their family's feud. And it also links with religion, almost like a sacrificial sheep. And you can see that Friar Lawrence is very vulnerable at this point and is willing to give up his life in order to rectify for the wrongdoings that he's done and to repent for his sins, even though he knows that by offering up his life that goes against God's will, he's willing to do that in order to show how sorry he is. And then he uses the adjective severest law. So what he's basically saying here is that he's quite happy to be punished in the most severe way. He's happy for that to happen because he knows that on some level he absolutely deserves it. And he's willing again to kind of take accountability and take his punishment as it's due. Okay, so that's your 5 quotations for Friar Lawrence. These quotations should be able to put you in a really good position for any exam question where Friar Lawrence may come up, or any exam question where quotations from Friar Lawrence would be useful. As ever, don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. If you've got any questions in regards to this video, then please drop me a comment and I will do my best to answer those questions and give you any more advice that you need on Friar Lawrence. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this has been really helpful. Goodbye.